I made $1 million as a student going to the #1 public university in the world and felt no happiness whatsoever. Here's how I did it and whether or not I recommend you do it too. I actually am a student at UCLA Anderson, and I was actually fortunate enough to get jobs in tech as well as consulting during my time at UCLA. I was working as well as going to school as a student at Anderson, and during that time we had the advent of the thing called work from home jobs, and this term called overemployed came up. I googled it. I was like, what is overemployed? It's when you have multiple work from home remote jobs. So I thought to myself, why not? Let's jump into this, let's figure it out, and let's see what we can do. So first things first, I started applying to jobs. As a student at UCLA, I knew I had the background experience in business as well as, I guess, the grit coming from a first generation family where I'm the first person to come to America. So I always felt like I had the hopes and dreams of my entire family, my parents riding on me. So I decided, why not? Screw it, let's do it. The first role I got was working as like a TPM at a big engineering firm. I was doing a lot of the data and dashboards for that firm, and I was consulting for them. So I was getting paid with a very high rate, about around $100 an hour. So equating to about $200,000 a year for that role. So that was an overall very good role, because the firm was a lot slower in a sense that because it was a kind of an older engineering firm, I was able to kind of do things, push projects on a much slower pace where the rate of innovation wasn't that fast. So that role, working remote, and they were just cool with just get your work done. We don't care what happens, get it done. It's all we need. You're important, we appreciate you. So I was doing that, and that's how I was getting around $200,000 a year. The next, I got a job at a very big tech company at Google. I was working as a PM on the data center side of things. And overall, that was probably one of the most hardest jobs I've ever had, and it was the biggest amount of learning I've ever done. Total compensation there was about $300,000 a year. That was with stock, bonus, equity, and then that actually total compensation went up because the time I was there, the value of the stock had increased from what it was. So I was working very hard there. And then the third and final one, I was working at another tech firm, and I was building out their engineering team. So I was able to basically charge them as well, or I guess work for them as well, and generate income there. So overall, a year, I was probably taking home around almost $600,000 a year. And that was year one. Year two, I did the same thing where I kind of let one of the jobs go. So we were projected to have around $400,000 in income that year. So in the past 2 years, from 2022 to 2023, I made about $1 million. And I realized I was extremely burned out. I was going to so many meetings for each of the companies where I'd have a meeting early in the morning because I was meeting with team members from Europe. I was meeting with team members late at night from Asia. And then all throughout the day, I was just having back-to-back meetings for each company. And I was trying to find like an hour or two within the day to work out. So I'd have early days and long nights. I noticed my health had deteriorated too because I was just overstressing myself. And then keep in mind that I was doing school, so I was able to schedule all my classes to be remote as well as to have a class on a Saturday. So if you can only imagine, Monday to Saturday was just an extremely busy time for me where I was going to school, going to class, meeting with stakeholders, and trying to make things happen. And keep in mind, at UCLA, it's one of the hardest business schools in the world. I think we had around a 10% acceptance rate last year for 2023, which is kind of crazy. And we have a ton of projects. You meet with your clients. So I was running around with like a chicken with his head cut off, and I eventually just burned out in a sense where you can't really do 4 really hard things at once. And this is something I had to learn really young in my career, in my life, because I came from such a household where money was so scarce. Being the oldest child, I felt like the hopes and dreams of my parents were on me. A lot of the financial knowledge that my parents never learned because they came as immigrants, I had to learn myself. So I approached money and finances as an asset that didn't come back. That was a scarce asset. And for me, this was crazy because I knew for a fact, going to business school, working for these huge, ginormous companies, that money is the only thing that will always come back. When they generate revenue, they'll make more money. They either cut costs, they let people go, they let businesses kind of phase out or they sell their assets for more money. So that's the one thing that was always going to come back, which was money. And I realized young in my career and young in my life that money was always going to come back, and I needed to change that mindset or mentality because my mental health, my physical health was very important for me. I think during the hardest time when my physical health was that I gained about 25 pounds. I got up to around like 188, and then I was around like 20% body fat. The hardest time was just kind of like trying to balance everything, and I used food to medicate myself, where I would just eat as much food as I can because I felt better at night, and then I would try and go to bed and then do it all over again. I just remember sitting in this room going on so many Zoom meetings, and then I look outside, it's nighttime. I wake up so early, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, do a ton of meetings, get out at 6 p.m. and then I've been here at my desk all day. Haven't moved one bit. I order a ton of DoorDash to self-medicate and eat unhealthy food just to feel better about myself. And it was really important for me to kind of catch this in my life because I ended up doing this bad habits, but there was a benefit in the sense that I was paid a lot of money. I made around $1 million. That $1 million, keep in mind, I was a high income earner in California, so I'm going to be taxed around 40%, so it's almost around $600,000. I used that $600,000 to pay off all my debt from school because I didn't have any scholarships coming in. I had to fund everything myself. I owed a lot of money to UCLA because school is very expensive. Also, I paid off my car because I was able to actually just buy my dream car, which was a Model S refresh, and that was very expensive as well. So I paid off everything, and I had a huge amount of savings in the bank because of it. The cool thing about this was that even though I worked so hard, I did sacrifice my mental health. I knew I was young. I knew I'm still young, and I'm able to just kind of, I guess, build myself back up from the dark place that I was in. So whether or not I recommend this for you, this is really kind of important. When you're young in your career, you should take massive risk in a sense that worst comes to worst is you fail, you go back to class, or you just go back living with your parents, right? For me, I was extremely young. I knew if I failed, I could always just get another job. I could always go back to school. I was in school already. So just take massive risks with your life. Maybe don't do what I did where you burn out so fast because you're doing too much with 3 jobs and school from one of the harder universities in the world at UCLA Anderson. So take that into account, right? It's okay if you have to work multiple jobs when you're young, and keep in mind, like, your experience is important, but just because you're young doesn't mean you can't get these amazing jobs, right? So apply to those jobs, show that you have the aptitude to do well. And to do that, you just gotta do very well in interviews. I use my experience from school. I use my experience from internships, from previous roles to just kind of show them what I knew. And that's how I secured these roles. I always knew when I was at Google, I was the youngest person in the room, but it was my hard work and my aptitude that allowed me to do well and succeed in these roles. So just know that if you're going to do this route, it's possible. It may not be sustainable, but view your life as seasons. I learned this from Alex Hormozy. I've learned this from the most successful people at Google, as well as all the top entrepreneurs that I follow. Your life is in seasons. There will be sprints where you have to give everything you got. In these past 2 years, I gave everything I got. I made that $1 million that I was really hoping to get. Finally did it, paid off all my loans, paid off all my debt because I had to fund everything myself because I was a first generation person to come to America. I was born here, but I knew I needed to figure out everything on my own because my parents were not going to pay for my education. I needed to pay for my rent. I needed to pay for all these crazy things in life that we just have to figure out. And I'm not much smarter than anyone else. I just put the time in, I put work in, and you can do anything you set your mind to. So if you do choose to go this route, just know that it's going to be a sprint. And that season of your life, whether it be 1-2 years, it's going to be all out, and it's okay because once you get out on the other side, it's all going to work out. So right now, I'm taking time for myself, taking time for school. I turned down those crazy nights, those crazy long days, and I'm focusing on me. So don't ever forget that you are more capable than you can ever imagine, and I truly believe in you. So let me know if you have any questions and comments. I believe in you, Jello fam. Have an amazing rest of your day, and like, comment, and subscribe. The more you like, comment, subscribe, the more I can get this content out to help people like yourself who don't come from these amazing backgrounds, or who do come from these amazing backgrounds and just need advice on how to navigate this life we have. And I'll catch you later in the next video. Peace.